Hey folks, it's the Blind Guy coming back at you with another Should You Watch movie review. And on this episode, we are taking a look at 1997's Starship Troopers, directed by Paul Verhoeven of RoboCop fame, and starring Casper Van Dien, Denise Richards, and Dina Meyer from, I remember her always from Dragonheart, but I guess she's been in a few other things that people tend to think of her as starring in. So that's the movie. Should you watch it? Well, it's free to stream right now. I saw it the other night. I sat down, I watched it. I had not seen it in a few years. And my thoughts are as follows. I think that this movie deserves far less credit than it gets. It's a movie that's actually increased in popularity and acclaim in the last few years. And I believe it's getting that acclaim for undeserved reasons. I'll give you a little story. So I am a fairly artistic person. I used to take advanced art classes, and I had done a painting that was a barn door with some cowboy boots in it. And I asked the instructor what I would get on that painting, and he said I would get a B. I said, well, what if this was an impressionistic piece of work? And then he said, oh, I didn't think about that. I guess as an impressionistic piece of work, this would be an A. And I feel like that's the case with Starship Troopers. It's being sold as a satire, but I do not believe it was originally intended to be that. I do believe it has some satirical elements to it, just like RoboCop, but I think the movie is really just an action movie that has some satirical elements. And if that's the case, then it's just an okay movie. I believe people now, even the creators of the movie, are now selling it as some profound satire on the absurdity of the military-industrial complex and war itself. And I don't believe that that's actually the main point of the original movie. I think that there are those elements in it, and it pokes a little fun at those and makes some interesting points. But I do not believe that the fact it does that, makes it a better movie. Now, if the director has proven himself to be able to make movies that are not satirical and are not cheesy and action-based, and then decides to do one, in my mind, that has more weight than a director like Paul Verhoeven, who always does this. His movies are always, in my mind, super cheesy, super violent, have a lot of nudity in them, and then he comes around and says, well, they're making satirical points about the absurdity of those things. And then you're thinking, really, is that the case, or do you just like putting those things in your movies? And so those are my thoughts on Starship Troopers. It's not a terrible movie by any stretch of the imagination. It has some fun moments in it, but it is definitely not as thought-provoking as people tend to make it out to be. It has some CG elements that some have held up okay over time and some not so much. This was when computer-generated effects were becoming extremely overused because they could show broad daylight scenes of, millions of creatures in battle or thousands of creatures in battle. And this was around the time of the Star Wars re-release of the special editions with the generated effects in them, and then the prequels were soon to be produced. And so this was just at the very beginning of the oversaturation of CGI. Unfortunately, a lot of movies now are starting to realize that and go back to using more practical effects. This does have some practical effects in them, and they, to be honest, still look better than the computer-generated ones. But I also find it interesting that Casper Van Dien's character, who reminds you of Tom Brady for some reason. If Tom Brady was a Starship Trooper, this was how he would be. I'm sure of it. But he is infatuated with Denise Richards' character instead of Dina Meyer, which in my mind is just crazy. Like, I don't know what's wrong with the guy. But he does seem to come around in the end. A little spoiler alert there for you. But I just find that not very believable because I think Dina Meyer is a far cooler character in this movie than Denise Richards ever is. Little fun trivia for you. I don't have like a great scene to point out in this movie because I don't think it has anything that's that great in it. But I did find out trivia-wise when they did the co-ed shower scene, I guess Paul Verhoeven shot that when he was in the nude as well to help everybody else feel more comfortable. I'm not sure that would make me feel a little more uncomfortable. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are on that. But it happened, and I guess they got the scene shot. So those are my thoughts on Starship Troopers. I will not, if it's on TV, I'll watch it. It is not a great piece of cinema and is not as nearly as profound or thought-provoking as a lot of people on the internet would like you to think. But Not a terrible movie. Can be some fun. If you're looking for something that's got a lot of gore and nudity type stuff, no judgment, not judging. It's got that in it for sure. So those are my thoughts on Starship Troopers from 1997. Let me know in the comments below if you have read the book, because the book is very different from the movie, which makes me wonder why they even used the intellectual property. But those are my thoughts. Should you watch Starship Troopers? Laters on the Minjay.
Laters on the Minjay.